Hello, beautiful human, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm feeling super excited to make this video for you today. So if you've clicked on this video, I'm guessing you're doing some healing work. More healing? More healing? More healing? I get it. I'm over 10 years into my own healing journey since I've started to really prioritize healing my past and my present over rushing towards my future. I've done over 150 plant medicine ceremonies. I've studied with all sorts of different indigenous spiritual traditions. I have done psychotherapy. I've done spiritual retreats, all sorts of spiritual and relational workshops. I've read countless self-help books. I've invested just so much into my healing. And recently, at 43 years old, I've discovered that I have a much more complex and wounded, insecure attachment system than I previously thought. And I am realizing that I have been living with C-PTSD my entire life. So with this knowledge, the entire perspective that I have on my life is changing, and it really does feel like I am starting over at the beginning again. And here's the thing, sometimes I feel genuinely angry and resentful about all of this. Like, how did I get dealt this hand? How could I have so many things to heal from? Have I just spent the last 10 years of my life playing whack-a-mole, trying to heal my issues in vain? Why does everyone else seem to just function normally while I'm in the trenches doing this deep healing work? And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. We all want to transform, but sometimes the path seems so overwhelming, so endless. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by or resentful towards your healing journey and where you're at with it, this video is for you. Because I'm going to share with you why healing takes so long, the goodness of the messy middle and how to make the most of it, and why you are developing the superpowers that most people will never have. Not because most people aren't walking around with trauma, developmental wounds, illness, or other kinds of pain that they must navigate through and overcome, but because most people aren't willing and able to do this kind of healing work like you are. And this isn't some feel-good video about silver linings. I'm not here to argue that trauma, loss, disease, pain are somehow good for the world. This is about recognizing what's really unfolding in your healing process and how your greatest wounds are becoming your greatest gifts. So let's start with why healing feels so endless in the first place, because there's actually an intelligence to this that most of us never consider. I want to start us off with this quote. This is a period of time when the universe is working to help people reach a higher state of consciousness, and a vital part of that is to experience some of the darkness that we all come in with. Remember, this plan is not about your personality, it's about your soul, and only your personality suffers. And your personality suffers so your soul can expand. Now, this is a text that I copied and saved from my spiritual teacher and healer that I had for many years when I was living in Bali, Dr. Bobby Aqua. And I'm going to share quite a few things that she shared with me in those years in this video, but I would not be where I am today if it was not for her, so I give her deep thanks. So I want to share with you a bit about my healing journey, and this starts maybe the second year that I was in Bali, because that first year I was this happy, shiny version of myself. I was really into hooping, hula hooping, flow arts, playing with all sorts of props and dancing, poi fans, and I loved ecstatic dance. I loved the conscious parties and the amazing friends that I was making in Bali, and I got into performing here and there at festivals and parties in Bali, and I really was so happy. And I was single at the time, and I felt so free and so excited about my life. And then I met someone, and this relationship was not easy. And I found myself really unable to process grief and unable to process anger. And that's when I met Dr. Bobby. And I also was not able to sleep. And I have had insomnia issues since I was 21. on and off chronic insomnia. Throughout my life, it would come for 3 months and then go, and maybe 3 months a year I would have it, or 3 months every, I don't know, 7 months or something. So the insomnia came back. I was panicking. I was in this relationship that was really hard for me. I was not able to grieve a loss, and Dr. Bobby reflected back to me, it's not insomnia, it's your repressed emotions. I was severely disconnected from myself, from my emotional body, and I was chronically dysregulated. And Dr. Bobby inspired me, or maybe motivated me, to focus on this healing work because I had the time and the space. I was living in Bali, this island of healing and of healers, and I decided that was a good idea. She also was an awakened person, and she let me know about this concept of the truth that I had never considered before, but it's seeing things as they really are, which is easy enough to understand, but it's actually very difficult to really do. So she got me started on shadow work, on feeling, on journaling, to cry and to scream. And I'm sharing all this with you because I had to start from square one. I had to start from learning how to feel again, learning how to feel these basic emotions that I had repressed and that I had beliefs around that were bad and wrong. And I've shared with you my plant medicine experience being very, very vast, and I have experience with many different kinds of plant medicine teachers, but the medicine ayahuasca really started to enable me to access my grief. And for the first time in my life, I was able to have these big sobs in ceremony, and that's all that would really happen. I would be exhausted after that, and that was indeed enough for me at the time. Now, technically, I was seeing Dr. Bobby for acupuncture, but while I was on the table, she was my spiritual therapist. She was giving me reflections, ideas, and homework, and things to really chew on while I was on the table. And I was in this really challenging relationship with somebody, and she really encouraged both of us to stay committed so we can work through our childhood issues together and work on our spiritual awakening journey together with that security of knowing that we were not going to leave the relationship. So I did a lot of relationship work with this person, and it was the beginning of a deep unraveling of understanding attachment issues and developmental wounding. I had such a need for control back then. I had suffered already from an eating disorder. I had body dysmorphia. I had hypervigilance around my surroundings. I constantly felt unsafe. I had to start learning how to soften and open up that grip that I wanted to have on life. And so yeah, the plant medicines were not going to be like,
hey girl, you got C-PTSD.
No, they were going to first start getting me to open up to feeling, to being connected to my emotional body. The medicine would help me see my soul and the beauty of my soul, which I needed because sometimes I was so not in my body. I was resisting my life. I was so frustrated about the past decade of my life and how it had gone. So this is the intelligence of healing. We are only given so much. We're only given what we can handle. The medicine meets us where we're ready to be met. And if it gave us more, it could re-traumatize us. It could overwhelm our nervous systems, creating more damage. I had lost my parents when I was 25 in a motorcycle accident. And when I told Dr. Bobby this, and she saw my state of disassociating from my body and from my emotional body, she understood that I needed to go really slowly in my healing because I was sitting on top of a volcano of repressed emotion and trauma. So when my parents died, something in me froze, and what I needed to access first was that grief, that complex grief from my parents dying that I hadn't properly done on my own 7 years prior. And I'm looking back now and seeing that all that work that I did on myself in Bali was just clearing the way for me to do this deeper developmental trauma work from childhood. I was not going to be able to access that when I first started my healing journey. So of course, we're not going to see our whole healing journey outline step by step, chapter by chapter when we just start out. We have to start where we are with our nervous system, with our emotional intelligence, with our understanding of our attachment system, with our ability to feel, with our awareness. And of course, the environment has a factor to play too. When I was living in Bali, there was such a strong emphasis on spirituality and healing. It's like the spiritual epicenter of the world. And here in the West, now that I'm back in my home state of California, I have access to more Western thinking and frameworks such as psychology. And this is now playing the part of my teacher and guide. Now I have a psychotherapist. Now I have these psychological frameworks. In this relationship that I just had, I was realizing that I was still struggling with depression, with insomnia, with the lack of self-love, an inability to make healthy boundaries, and believing that I needed to earn my lovability. As that relationship came to an end, I really had to step back to see where I was at. Unlike single incident trauma, C-PTSD is the accumulation of many, perhaps thousands of micro moments where your nervous system learned that connection equals danger, that your needs are too much, or that you have to perform to be worthy of love. And C-PTSD is the collection of symptoms, coping mechanisms, adaptations, and beliefs that are formed living on top of that unresolved trauma. And so now in learning about this, I'm finally having language to understand my life experience. It's like I finally am being given a map to understand the territory of this land I've been wandering around in for over a decade without fully understanding the landscape. I wasn't given this framework at the beginning because I didn't have the nervous system, the capacity, the connection with my emotional body, the emotional intelligence to handle it, to work with it. And now I do. I am much more resourced in all ways than I was when I was 31. So this is it. This is how it works. We're given one step at a time. We are, like the metaphor, driving in the dark and only able to see 10 meters in front of us at a time. I am thinking about two close friends that have shared with me that they have learned in the past couple years that they have ADHD, it's been confirmed, and that they are neurodivergent. And this is transforming their entire perspective of their life and all of their life's challenges. So I know I'm not alone in this, and maybe this is something that comes when we're around 40. I know around 30, we're experiencing our Saturn return, and everything goes into question about who we are. And when we're 18, 19, we leave the house and we have to figure out who we are without our caregivers. So even when we've figured it out, aging forces us into a new initiation. So your healing, feeling endless is not a bug. It's intelligent design. But here's what I wish somebody would have told me years ago: what progress actually looks and feels like in the messy middle. Because the messy middle is that biggest chunk. How do we find joy in recognizing our own micro achievements throughout that time? So here are some signs that you're making progress and expanding your capacity. You can name what's happening. You're starting to recognize your patterns. Even after they play out, but maybe right before. For example, I am judging myself. I just minimized my need when I said that right there. I am people pleasing. I'm self-abandoning again. I am feeling shame. This is huge to be able to name your experience like that, to be able to bring it to consciousness in this way. Huge. You have compassion for yourself where you didn't have compassion before. You have compassion for being exactly where you are, or for continuing to bang your head over this one pattern that's still really hard to change. Growing compassion is such a beautiful gift that we humans develop through our own suffering. You feel vulnerable, but you are aware of it. Well, this awareness requires capacity. Often when we are feeling overwhelmed and at our lowest capacity, we're not even capable of recognizing vulnerability. We're just surviving. So the fact that you can recognize it and articulate it demonstrates your expanding psychological resourcefulness. You're finding more to heal. Yay! I know, this is not a fun thing, but this is proof that your system is trusting you with deeper layers, that you have now expanded your resourcefulness and your capacity to be able to handle a greater piece. Like for me, when I was first in Bali on my healing journey, I was unable to feel. I was unable to feel anger or grief or sadness. And now I am far from being a master of my emotional wiring, but I have been given this much larger piece of C-PTSD and developmental wounding to work through. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that the past 10 years of doing healing work have not been in vain. So this is normal, and it's a beautiful thing because it means that you have been expanding yourself. You have now acquired the trust of your nervous system and psyche to be able to work with more information. And the last sign that I'll share in this video that you're making progress in expanding your capacity in the messy middle is that you find that you are only able to spend time with, share yourself with, and be really real with a handful of people. And that you are appreciating spending time with yourself now more than you have in the past. And this is the hard thing about doing this deep healing work, is it does require a lot of self-time, and that we do need to be really careful about who we spend our time with, because not everybody really gets this kind of healing work. And of course, there are so many different signs that you're making progress that we could build a huge list upon, but these are plenty for this video. The ability to hold both, that we've come so far and that we still have a lot of work to do, is actually a sophisticated psychological skill that develops growth. Being able to hold two things as true. Dr. Bobby would tell me again and again to have patience. This is going to take as long as it's going to take, because I was resisting every step of the way some days. And this brings me to something really important. What you might not realize is that in doing all of this healing work, you are developing superpowers, real ones. I recently got to attend this in-person attachment intensive, and it was around attachment healing and radical honesty, and it was put on by Heidi Priebe, this YouTube content creator and educator that I've been following the past 8 months, and she makes a lot of videos around attachment healing, C-PTSD, toxic shame, many topics that are fascinating. And so one day she was sharing a lesson, and she said this thing that brought so much resolution and relief to this inner tension I was experiencing about how long my journey towards earned secure attachment was going to take, how much longer it was going to take now that I realized that I was working with a disorganized attachment system rather than an avoidant attachment system. And I can go into this in another video, but I initially thought that it was just about me needing space from others, needing to take space from others to be regulated. That was my strategy in attached relationships. But with a disorganized attached system, I have the desperate need for connection and simultaneously the fear of connection. So she shared that this journey that we have, we're all navigating an insecure attachment system at this retreat, which was pretty cool. This journey that we have towards earned secure attachment that she has attained for herself is going to make us more resilient people in all relationships with ourselves and in our relationship with the world. And so what she shared was that the person who earns secure attachment versus the person who is natively or naively securely attached is going to be so much more resilient and able to handle extremely difficult situations than the person who is naturally securely attached. And that gave me so much solace. And what I understood was that we are actually developing superpowers in our journey to earning secure attachment that naturally securely attached people don't have. They might not be able to handle extremely difficult situations involving trauma. And we will, because we've been there, we've lived it. So whether you're earning your secure attachment as well, or if you're healing from C-PTSD, we could say you're earning your freedom. We're earning our freedom from fear, from living in unresolved trauma, from living in toxic shame. Whatever you are earning your mastery in, navigating your personal wounds and traumas, you're not just catching up to normal. You're developing abilities that most people don't even know are possible. You will heal, and you're going to end up with some hard-won psychological skills, insights, and wisdom. Here are some superpowers that you and I are most likely developing. And I believe there are certainly countless superpowers and gifts that we will develop on the other side of our healing journey, but this is the core group of them. Earned secure attachment, earned freedom, earned authenticity, earned whatever it is that you are going after in your healing journey creates abilities that natural wholeness rarely produces. I want to invite you into this great reframe. Instead of resenting or resisting this healing that you've been given to do, recognize that you are developing superpowers that most people will never develop. Because sometimes we forget why we're doing all of this work, and we need to renew our spiritual quest, and that's okay, and that's important to do. And I just want to remind you, your healing journey is not going too slow. We are becoming relationally conscious in an unconscious world. This healing work is the most important work we can do. It is the most selfless thing that we can do. It is healing the planet. We must not give up on ourselves and expect healing to be anything other than the slow, non-linear work that it is. My old teacher, Dr. Bobby, would say, "You're on a great journey. It's the journey of awakening. See waking up as a great adventure, worthy of the work. You may not enjoy the process, but you'll certainly enjoy the results." Hey, thank you so much for watching this video, for staying till the end, for spending your precious, sacred time with me. And I would love to know any thoughts, feelings, reactions that you had while watching this video in the comments below. I will read every single one of them. And if you'd like to learn how I use AI for emotional growth and self-discovery, you're definitely gonna wanna check out this video. I cannot tell you how much AI has helped me connect the dots in the last 8 months with astrology, with therapy, with psychology, depth psychology. It's helped me understand so much about myself. I really want you to utilize AI for your healing journey. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Dr. Bobby would tell me, in the end, your life is going to be the real version of a peak experience.